Hello guys, welcome in another episode of Romantic Chess Repertoire, and it's a part 2 of King's Gambit. We're gonna try now to cover the, I think the most critical line, which is what happens when when black actually takes the pawn and after knight f3 plays the move g5. So yeah, you already know what this series is all about, so I'm not gonna make it any longer. Let's get started. Okay, so if black takes the pawn and after knight f3 plays the move g5, we immediately play the move d4. We're trying to occupy the center as quickly as possible. And well, now the most critical line is obviously the move g4. But first, let me just show you what happens if black actually waits with playing this move g4 and plays, for example, the move d6, because there's really not other moves the black can try. I would suggest now knight to c3. So knight to c3, and now after g4 we're gonna transpose to the main line, which we're gonna talk about later. So yeah, let's now focus of if black is trying to avoid playing this move g4 right away and plays bishop to g7. Now I'm gonna suggest playing the move bishop to c4 now. And I think now the only challenging move here is really the move g4, because sooner or later black would have to play the move g4, because otherwise I don't see a good plan for black. Let's say I don't know, if you for example just move the bishop, we have a lot, our center is great and we do not have much problems. I think g4 is at some point challenging, because well, we can also try to play for like the mainline style and try to go h4, and if black is not careful then we're gonna have a really good version of this. So I think g4 now has to be played if black wants to do something interesting here in the game. And now I'm gonna suggest bishop takes f4, so sacrificing this knight, and after pawn takes, queen takes f3. And yeah, this position I think it's great to play because, well, as you will see comparing to the main line in this variation, we have these additional moves, bishop to g7 and bishop to c4. And it's a question whether it's better for white or black. I think it's much better for white, because we almost in any variation we just develop this bishop to c4, and it's really questionable whether this dark square bishop belongs to g7 or not. In some variations black can try to play bishop e7. So yeah, so let me now just give an example. It's really easy to actually blunder here. As black, for example, knight c6, and then we already have this bishop f7, and after king takes, we have queen h5 check, king f8, bishop to g5 attacking the queen, and after knight f6 we can just castle here. And well, there's just too much pressure here. I think from a practical point of view this is just a simple win for white, because yeah, it's almost impossible to protect everything. For example, queen e8 attacking our queen looks very natural, normal. We can just play queen h4, and now this knight is just gone. There's nothing the black can do here. For example, here, then we can just take on f6, king e8, e5, and white's attack is crushing here. So well, this is not the variation that black can try. So yeah, knight to c6 can be met with bishop takes f7. Yeah, so bishop to e6 seems to be the critical choice now. We of course do not want to play the move d5, because that would close the position. We certainly don't want to do that. We want to open up the lines for our pieces, because we are ahead in development. That's our compensation. So now we want to take and play the move e5. If we want, we can throw this check in, but I don't think it's necessary right now, and that's gonna give black some additional options, because well, if we play this move, then we of course have some attack, but we don't have this opportunity of giving this check. So that means that black can already try to organize himself to defend this king. And now we have this option in the future. We're not gonna play this move. It's hard to say. But if we don't have to play this move, and we have this opportunity to do this move later, so I would suggest to start with this move e5. which is really a key move for this variation. We try to prevent this knight from coming to f6, and yeah, just open up the position as soon as possible. So for example, knight e7, bishop to g5, so pinning this knight, knight b to c6. Now we give a check because there was some possibilities that black can try to escape, so now we give a check. King to d7 first, and then we have this move d5, opening up the position. Now taking on d5 is really very risky for black, because after queen h3, king e8, queen to 8 castles, all the lines are going to be open in a moment, and well, the attack is really strong here and scary. In the worst case scenario, we can actually just go back with our queen here, and it's going to be a draw if we want to, but we have some additional options as well to try to continue attacking. So after d5, I think the only real move is knight takes e5, but now we can simply take on e6. Black of course cannot take on e6, that would be, well, suicide, so king to c8, but now we can simply just play knight to d5, rook e8, protecting this knight, take the pawn, c6, take on g7, pawn takes, and we can just castles. So the position changed a little bit. We're gonna try to now use the fact that all the black pieces are not well coordinated, and well, there's a lot of pins. For example, now let's just say black tries king c7, right? Just to open up the rook, maybe hide the king to b8, that would be a great improvement. Well, it doesn't work because rook to f7, attacking this knight, and after knight takes, pawn takes, rook f8, we have rook e1, and there's really nothing that black can do really in this position. I would like to point out that this position here is actually much better for white. Black of course has two rooks, but this position here, white has too many pawns that yes, we can run with these pawns, and the position should be winning quite easily. So yeah, that would be it for this line where black is trying to play d6 and not going for this g4 move. So now let's try for a real one, g4. And this is really the key move here. We should know this line very well, and probably the most important variation to know to try to use the King's Gambit as your weapon. After g4 we takes on f4, pawn takes knight, and queen takes knight. This is the position that you're gonna have a lot of the time while playing King's Gambit, because this is, well, the most critical line and probably most played. And now, well, two real options for black now. D6 has been played a lot of the times, probably the most critical line, and yeah, it just happens all the time. Knight to c6 is another move, actually computer's favorite. But now we have this opportunity to go to bishop to c4, very natural. We're trying to develop our attack on f7, queen to e7, and now knight to c3. So threatening a little bit this knight to c3. And in one game happened knight to b4, just to trying to protect this square on d5 and maybe attacking c2 in the future. And white now just castled, and after c6, e5, knight takes c2, bishop g5, and as we can see, this queen has a really hard time now, because there's not a real good square for this queen. If we go somewhere here, then it's a checkmate on f7, so f6 is pretty much forced, but we can just take with the pawn, knight takes, bishop takes, and the best the black can do is to exchange queens, but it's not helping, because in this variation we are there's too much. For example, the variation can go d5 takes here, 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 and it's a mating attack already, so that should not be a problem. If kings go to d6, then we have this move rook e8, and now we're threatening a checkmate here. That's gonna be a lot of trouble for black. So that's not possible. After queen f3, this move knight to c6. Well, we showed one variation when black is trying to go with to b4. But maybe the most, well, another move is for example d6, but then we can put knight on d5 as we wanted. And now after queen d8 castles, I think we can safely castle kingside here in this position, because that's gonna make our attack well, on f7, right? The pressure is immediately increasing. And after bishop e6, rook a to d1, queen to d7, bishop to g5, preventing black from castling, bishop to g7, e5, the position just becomes open, and as you will see in a moment, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Knight to e7, so again trying to castle, knight f6, bishop takes, and we take on e6, and after pawn takes e6 we take on f6, and black's best choice is to give up the piece and castle, but that's going to be a great position for us. So but knight to g6 is lost because of f7, king f8, and bishop to h6. And well, king e7, queen f6 is checkmate. So yeah, this variation is not possible. Queen to c6 can be played at some point, maybe black has some options, but as you can see these two examples, white has a great attack and black would have to defend himself very well and play very accurate moves to not lose the game in 20 moves. So that's going to be very, very tough challenge for black. d6 now is, I think it's critical, because black is trying to stop this move. e5, well, he's not decided where to put his knight yet, so there are possibilities of going knight d7 in some variations, and the bishop may come into the action on the e6 square. So now after this move we play knight to c3, simply developing the knight, and now after knight to c6 we go queenside castles. And now there are two main options here, knight f6 and h5. h5 is a bit better, so let's start with this move here. And now this simple move h3, because black was threatening to go bishop to g4, so it makes sense to stop this move. And now, well, let's just say some normal developing move, bishop to e7. We already open up the position with e5. Black cannot take because, well, a lot of trouble on this d line here. So knight to d7, but then e6. Well, taking on e6. While taking on e6, well, we can play queen h5, king f8, bishop h6. That's gonna be winning very, very easily. So knight to f6 has to be played, but now we have e takes f7, king takes f7, bishop to c4 check, king e8, rook h to a1, and the attack is crushing. This is just too much for black to deal with. These open lines, queen h5, bishop to g5, to just, you know, pressure along all these lines. Knight to d5 may come. This is actually objectively already winning. This is not like we have an attack, we can try something. No, this position is winning, and it's winning according to a computer, and well, practically as well, because there's really we cannot go wrong now. It's like almost every move is winning. And for example, I'm gonna show you what computer suggests now for black. Rook f8, bishop h6, queen to d7, knight to d5, queen f5, but now knight c7, king d8, taking on f5, and just simply bishop takes f8, king takes c7, bishop takes e7. As you can see, we have a much better position. We already have material advantage, and well, quite a serious one. And well, we steer attack, and we have a bishop pair. This is completely winning. So it's basically not possible. Yeah, and the only real variation here is h5. And this move h5 has been played in the game Morozevich-Alexandrov, and now Morozevich tried this e5 move. But now after bishop to g4, queen e4, black didn't take this rook, which was probably expected by Mr. Morozevich, and now after e takes d6, bishop to e7, which is first, we can play, for example, d5 or just take this bishop, and our attack is still going. Instead, Alexandrov played a great move in the game, bishop to h6, and after taking on h6, rook takes h6, rook to d2, and d takes e5. Black is just perfectly fine here in this position. So objectively speaking, black is probably a bit better. White still has some attack, but well, the game ended up in a win for black. So that's not what we should do. I suggest to play this move instead of e5 to just play h3, as well as in the other variation, just to stop this move bishop to g4. And now, well, bishop to h6 is best to try to exchange bishops, king to b1, just to shut down all this weird stuff with queen to g5 possible lines in the future, exchanging queens. So we just want to, well, avoid all these funny lines, this king to b1, and prepare everything to attack. Now, taking on f4, that was the idea. Queen f4, queen f6, trying to exchange queens. This is, I think, the best way of dealing with this as black. Now queen e3, we of course do not want to exchange pieces. We want to prepare this move e5. Now it's time for black to try to develop his pieces, so knight g to e7, and we go bishop to c4. And again, it's really difficult what to do now with his pieces. We're threatening to go bishop to h1 and take something on f7. So queen h6 looks best to try to place somewhere this queen away from this f line, and well, at the same time attacking our queen. We go queen f2 to attack f7, and now after rook f8 to protect the f7 pawn, we can go e5 now. And we have a great attack. It's really difficult to find a good move for black. For example, very natural bishop f5 is already probably a mistake, because we can take and go g4, and after taking knight e4, the position is starting to fall apart for black, with threatening, of course, knight takes d6 and knight f6, so this queen is running out of squares. Queen to g6 is probably forced, but now we have knight f6, king d8, and rook to g1, and we can win this bishop back, and our attack is still very, very powerful. And I think this is, yeah, that would be it for this variation. You can try this out in your own games and, well, see for yourself what your opponents are going to play, and hopefully you're gonna win some games with this. And for now, if you like the video, of course, give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see a part 3, 4, and other variations, other lines, other openings in our romantic opening repertoire. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.